What's going on, guys? This is John with Red, White, and Barbecue, and today we're going to be smoking a leg of lamb. Now this cut is about 8 pounds. It's pretty good size, but it's also got a lot of fat around it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to trim off some of that fat. So you just want to take a 360 around the cut and just look for chunks that you see can come off. Now you want some fat on top to keep it moist throughout the cook, but you don't want too much to where the smoke can't get down to anywhere around the meat. So in areas like over here in the corner, it feels like there's about a 1/4 inch of fat. Just cut a decent portion of that off. Now I've already started to do this a little bit, and if you leave little chunks of exposed meat, that won't hurt at all. It'll just be spots where the smoke can hit the meat. Alright, so now we're going to flip it over and do the same thing to the other side. Now the other side's not as fatty as the top, but we're just going to want to take another look because there's always a few chunks that you don't want to come out in your finished product. Alright, so now this cut's looking pretty good. We got most of the fat cut off, but not all of it. Because again, we're going to want to keep some of it on to keep it moist, because this is a big cut of meat and it's going to take a while to cook. Alright, so now that we have this cut all trimmed up, next thing we're going to do is put garlic in it. So I have about a clove of garlic that I've cut up in about 20 small pieces. You can see them in my hand here. And we're going to cut a bunch of little slits in the top of the leg and on the bottom. And we're going to press these pieces of garlic down into them. So you're just going to want to open up a small piece, about a 1/2 inch. Going to take one of these small pieces and just press it down in there. And then close it back up. So you're going to want to do this about every 2 square inches or so you get a nice even coat of flavor across the top and the bottom. So we're just going to continue about a 1/2 inch down. You can also vary in the depth that you put these pieces of garlic. You can do some close to the top, you can get some deeper. You don't want to cut down too deep though. I'd say about 1 inch is the max you want to go, because then when you're cooking you can get juices that run out of the meat. So again, this is why it's a good idea to keep a decent layer of fat on top, because with all these slits you're going to lose some juices, but if you keep a decent amount of the original fat, then it should replenish some of those that you lose. Alright, so now that we have the top all coated with garlic, we're going to give this a flip, and we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Alright, so now that we have garlic across the whole cut, it's time to put our rub on. So for this rub, you're going to need a tablespoon each of salt and pepper, a tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of chili powder, about a tablespoon and a half of paprika, a tablespoon of dried thyme, And finally, a tablespoon of dried oregano leaves. So once you get all these in a bowl, just give it a good mix, and then it's ready to be put on the lamb. All right, so I've got the lamb in a tin foil pan just to contain the rub a little bit better, and you're just gonna wanna liberally apply the rub all around the lamb. Just pat it in. You can even get a little bit in all those cuts you made for the garlic, just to get the flavor a little bit deeper down into the cut of meat. And now you're going to want to flip it over and do the same thing to the other side. All right, so I got a little bit of rub left. Just flip it over again. Finish off the top. All right, now that it's all rubbed up, it's ready to hit the smoker. All right, now that we've got the Weber sitting at about 250 degrees, that's right where I like to cook the lamb, so it's time to throw it on. All right, so since we cut all the slits in the lamb to put the garlic in, what I like to do for the first 2 hours of the cook is to leave it in the aluminum pan, just to give all those slits a little bit of time to seal up so we don't lose too many juices right off the bat. Now, since this cut is about 8 pounds, it kind of depends on how big the bone is. In the cut, this piece is partly boneless, but it still has a big chunk in it for the overall time of the cook. But I'm gonna plan on about 6 to 7 hours. I don't see it being done before 6, so we're gonna check back in 2 hours when we take it out of the foil. So now let's pull the pan off. We'll put the lamb back on without it. Gotta give a big shout out to my good friend Haben for giving me these sweet gloves as a gift. So thank you, bro. Help me out. And then when we put the lamb back on, we're gonna put it the fat side down. So most of the fat was on that top part when it was sitting in the pan, but now we're gonna put it down on the bottom. What we're also gonna do, we've collected all these good juices with a lot of the rub mixed in. Now we don't want to just throw these away. We can use them to baste the lamb as it cooks. So what I've mixed up here is some olive oil with a squeezed lemon and some oregano in there. And I'm also going to add the juices that just came off of the lamb in this pan. So I'm going to give that a good mix. Now the olive oil in here is pretty thick, so it's really going to help keep it moist, along with the juices that came off, and the oregano is going to give it that great flavor that goes with the lamb. So we're just going to get a brush and lightly tap it on, because we don't want to brush off too much of the rub that we put on, because it'll still be a little bit soft from sitting in the juices. Now this mixture is really going to keep it nice and moist. It's not going to dry out at all. We'll put the lid back on the smoker, and I'll check back in about an hour to put some more of this mixture on. Make sure it stays nice and moist. So I'll see you guys in an hour. We're back after an hour. Smoker's still sitting at 250 degrees, and we're ready to put on another coat of our mixture. So let's take the lid off, grab our brush, mix it around a little bit. Now it's still a little soft because it's staying moist, so you still don't want to swipe across with the brush at all. You just want to dab it on real gently so they don't lose any of the rub. Now for the remainder of the cook, I'm going to keep doing this every hour, but I won't be checking up every time. So at the 6th hour, we'll check back in to take the temperature of it to see how much longer we have to go. Okay, we've had about 6 hours total on the cook, so now it's time to take the internal temperature of the lamb. Just gonna go ahead and pop off the lid, grab my thermometer. You're gonna wanna try and put it in the thickest part of the meat without hitting the bone. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it right into here and try and get that tip towards the center. Give it a second. All right, so it looks like it's sitting right about 154. So we're getting pretty close. I usually like to cook these to about 160 degrees to where they get pretty well done. If you're gonna do them on the smoker, they turn out well like that, rather than if you do it to where they're a little pink inside. I usually chop them up and make something with them. So we'll check back in about a half hour, and by then, I think it'll be ready. All right, so after about 6.5 hours on the cooker, I pulled it off and I cut a couple slices off of it. Now you can see in that time just how juicy and tender it got from these slices. You can see the juice coming off them if you give it a little squeeze. Press down with the knife, you can see the juices running down it. Now what I like to do when I cook it nice and well done like this is I'll chop it up and make gyros. But I hope you get to try this for yourself, and if you do, you can do whatever you'd like. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Please subscribe and look forward to our next video.